Hello, hello. I'm proud to be starting exactly on time today. Welcome, chat. It's good to see you again, see some familiar faces. Really appreciate you guys showing up. Yeah, today we are going to pick up the Goblin sculpt again, which is in celebration of Halloween, October. Yeah, the first episode was really fun. I like the progress that we've made. It's been enjoyable so far, and I rehearsed a little today just to get an idea of what I could accomplish in kind of the amount of time. And so my goal for today is to flesh out more of the face, get some of those details refined, add some key wrinkles, get the teeth in there, and really set the foundation for matching the artwork as close as possible. And then also continue down into the torso, which is, if you can see in the artwork, is, well, maybe you can't. Whoops. But it's organic, so he's shirtless. So we're going to start sculpting some anatomy in there, some musculature. So that's kind of the goal for today. And before I do get started, please use this time to ask questions. Pick my brain. That is really the purpose of doing these things live. So if you've got questions about tools I'm using, or about anything really, computer graphics in general, or things not pertaining to this particular sculpture, ask away. And with that said, yeah, we'll just go ahead and get started. And the first thing that I want to do, actually picking it up where I left off, one of the last things we talked about in the previous stream was the idea of sculpting the head symmetrically even though the body is asymmetrical. And I'm going to actually employ that idea here. I made a tip video, I think yesterday, and shared that on YouTube about that exact technique. And so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and actually set that up. Where we left off, you may remember that we established local orientations for the head, and all that needs to be done now actually is to separate the head. But if we do symmetrize, you can see that the head remains fairly symmetrical, but the body is screwed up. So let's undo that, and I'm going to lop the head off first in edit mode. So just marquee select the head, P, separate by selection. Just select the head, back to sculpt mode, and symmetrize. There we go. Let's see, the head maybe shrunk a little bit widthwise, so I'm going to undo that and just move in edit mode all of my mesh elements, local X, slightly to the left, like that, and then run symmetrize again. There we go. And what that should do is give me a little bit more width to the head. Although now it's a little bit off-centered maybe. No, I'm going to leave it there because it's dependent on the origin. All right, so with that lopped off, I need to reconnect them. And if I tab into edit mode, the geometry is not really conducive for connecting it with like bridging the edge loops. So instead, I'm going to select the entire border, hit F to fill, and then for one, I'm going to move it in local X so that it aligns better with the mesh underneath it. E to extrude. And what I'm going to do is a union boolean. That's the idea here. Do the same thing for the bottom. Just select that top edge border and then F to fill. All right, so now we've got two solid pieces, and I can very easily, let's see, go to my modifiers and add a boolean, and we'll select the Suzanne, what's it called? It's called Suzanne. I should name these more properly. This one is the Goblin body, which means this one is, oh wait, I'm confusing myself. No, this one is the one, is Goblin body. Body. And this is the head that we're going to delete. So Goblin body, I'm going to select, okay, that's correct. Gosh, I'm really confusing. Instead of intersection, let's do union. There we go. Now we'll apply that and delete the head. All right, so now we've merged our two geometry pieces together, and if I jump into sculpt mode, I can just smooth out this geometry using dynamic topology. Do I have a mask on? Alt-M. There we go. Let's see, when I'm holding shift, I'm not really getting anything. Maybe I need to switch to my pen, and that's why. Oh, I see a question from John. Do you sculpt the eye shapes entirely, or will they be shaped in edit mode with scaling? The eyes are separate objects. I'm going to keep them that way. I might just leave them simple shapes like this, because the eyes are pretty, if we look at those by themselves, they look like just pure round balls with like a texture on it. So there's not a whole lot to do geometrically. But now that I've got the head symmetrical, I'm actually going to add a mirror modifier and then use our body as the mirror object. So now I can move the eyes in local X, and it's exactly the same on the other side. Now what was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm gonna smooth out that connection from head to neck. There we go. So just regenerating that geometry, just an inflate brush, smooth it out. There we go. All right, and with this now, I've got symmetry enabled on the head, and that's how I'm going to sculpt these head details, get the other side for free. And yeah, that's a really cool technique that frankly came out of the chat asking questions, so thank you for that. And let's see, Boolean scare Omar. I hear that. They can be scary. I don't like to use them the modifier method. I like to use them. There's several add-ons that make that process quick, and I prefer to use that. But yeah, I do get a little overwhelmed using the Boolean modifier. It's just kind of clunky. Anyway, all right. So with the head, I'm going to focus on. Let's see here. I'm just going to turn it on and off for a bit, and by going back and forth, I can kind of see what's matching and what's not. And the mouth, that's something that needs to change. I need to bring up the corner of the mouth here. We'll do that with our grab brush using this sharp fall off. Let's pull it up. Whoops, make it maybe bigger. Turn that on and off. It's getting closer. Let's go back to a smooth fall off. Oh no, I don't think I'm even using symmetry. Lame. Let's try that again. Undo. Okay, there we go. And turn on symmetry. Sometimes with Blender, you really have to have a good memory. And, well, frankly, that's true for all 3D applications. At least the ones I've used. All right, let's bring that corner in a little bit more. Really trying to match it with the artwork. It's looking better. Yeah, it's looking pretty nice. Though perhaps this upper lip needs to be pulled up as well. Sweet. Now we're getting there. Yeah, I think that's matching fairly well. The mouth might need to be brought down. Cool. What about the position of my eyes? How is that feeling? I think that's actually pretty good. I can beef up the brows a little bit more. Let's use inflate instead of clay strips. If we look at the art, turn that on and off. It looks like there's a single crease down the middle of the brow, so I don't need this ridge in the middle. Let's just use my crease brush to push that down. Okay. Volumes are starting to line up pretty well. Cool. Yeah, it's turned out nice. I'm going to continue around the brow shape to this side of the eye and address these little wrinkles in here. That'll be a nice detail, a key detail. Just simply done with the crease brush, cutting in. Then we'll add a couple more below it. Really make it feel like it's the eyeball is sunk into the head. John in the chat says, I noticed the left ear isn't lined up with the art. Is that an active liberty you're taking with the symmetry from the character orientation? Yes, it is. That if I remember correctly, I think I went over that in the first stream, the first episode of this stream, and it's because I think that it's cheated in the artwork. Whenever I initially matched that ear being so tall, it kind of was like this, which was really awkward, and I couldn't make it look good in 3D, so I decided to err on the side or favor the side of the 3D rather than the art. But you know, it is, I admit, like substantially different, whereas from the camera angle you can't even see that other ear. So I don't know, I might try and mess around with it once I maybe finish the sculpt, adjust the posing of that ear a little bit. But for now I'm going to keep it symmetrical for the sake of ease of sculpting. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The ear is very different on the sculpture versus the artwork. When will you add the teeth? They will improve the evil smile in the artwork. That's coming up in the next few minutes, I would say. So yeah, sounds like we might be on the same page in terms of that. Yeah, you're right. The teeth will really help it out. Okay, so I just bulked up that brow and completely demolished the wrinkle detail. So since I've added the wrinkle detail, I'm going to switch to subdivide edges just so that maintains. And try and solve some of the lumpiness that I see in the brow. Just try and polish that up a bit. Cool. Gonna be turning it on and off because that is one of the best ways to really see if it's matching the art. Maybe the volume of the head is a bit much. I can maybe pare that back. Let's see here. Add in some more defined creases on the back of the ear, because we see that show up in the art. Let's see if I zoom in. This connection right here I need to improve. So maybe I'll go to my clay strips brush, and instead of bringing the crease forward like that, let's maybe smooth out the transition from ear to head. I don't think I can really sculpt it from the camera angle yet. Maybe this is a detail I don't need to spend so much time on. Really not getting it to show up the way I want. There we go. The shapes are there now, it's just not aligned properly. Maybe now I can move it according to the art. Okay. This is not exactly the most important feature to get perfect, so let's just move on. It's close enough. Let's see. Looking through the chat. Do you continue working on the Christmas family card if you have free time? You know, I was thinking about that, and I'm probably going to revisit that maybe in the holiday season, since the whole point of that was, like you said, a holiday greeting card. So maybe I will. I think I'm hopefully getting better at like streaming a project-based topic. And so then I think that one went a little bit slower than I wanted, but it turned out okay if I remember correctly. So it might be worth revisiting. As long as the model is the same feel as the artwork, it doesn't have to match exactly. I'm glad you said that, Matt. That's absolutely right. It can be a slippery slope trying to match it perfectly because it's just, I don't think it ever really will. Things are cheated in 2D and it doesn't exactly work in 3D, but as long as the feel is there, that's very important. And that's ambiguous, but when you know it when you feel it. I don't know, that sounds a little vague, but I think I'm still feeling it at this point, and so it's keeping me motivated, but matching it perfectly to the art is impractical and not necessary. So as I move my attention now to the teeth, it's going to help if I kind of mask this area off. So with my box select, oh yeah, it's going to be mirrored too. Let's just select that portion, Control I to invert, and I'm actually going to hide the masked portions. Maybe get rid of the spheres, which I should rename eyes. All right, so what I want to do first, if we look at our art, it looks like there's some semblance of like gums, especially on the top, but it's somewhere in between the gums and just kind of extruding out of the lips themselves, which is kind of interesting. I'm just gonna have to figure that one out. But I do want to build up some anatomy in the gums. Just kind of create a strip here with my inflate brush. It's gonna look kind of like a snake. And then we'll cut the edge a little bit further down to represent a lip more clearly. Simple enough. And let's look at the art to determine where these teeth need to kind of rise from. So let's just use the mask tool here and pick right here. There's a tooth. Here's another one. And the reason I keep switching over to this 3D viewport on the left is the tilde key doesn't do what I want in the bottom right, and I'm not really sure why, but the tilde keys do different things, as in the tilde turning on all layers and turning off all layers. That's how I'm doing the visibility swap, and for some reason it just doesn't work in the bottom right. I don't know why, so that's why I keep switching. All right, so I've inverted the mask, and we'll use snake hook just to pull these guys out. I want to also increase the detail size to ensure that I have enough geometry to pull out a clear shape. Oh, whoops. That is not the kind of curve I want. I want a sharp curve. Maybe 5 is actually too high. Oh, it's also subdivide edges. Let's do subdivide collapse. Oh, that tooth is huge. All right, let's do pinch and bring that guy down using subdivide edges. Wow, it's really big. Okay, that's all right. I'm just gonna pull out teeth that are all too big and then go back and shrink them all down. Let's go to my snake hook brush and do the same thing. Pull these guys out really quick, give myself a shape to work with, and then I'll refine it once it's there. Cool. Alt-M to clear the mask, and let's pinch these guys down. There we go, much closer. See, trying to catch up in the chat. As long as the model is the same, yeah. Looks like the seam going down the mouth. I think the tilde hotkey will work if you close that window and then reopen it, maybe. Let's try that. Close it. Do you mean like this. Is that working? Interesting. Wonder why. Oh, okay, so I basically refreshed this window, and now if I re-add my background images. Sorry, set this up again. Goblin art. Yeah, I think that worked. Thank you for that suggestion, Michal. Appreciate that. All right, so the teeth are looking decent right now. Want to pinch them up, make sure they're nice and tight. Let's also go back to subdivide collapse. Yeah, Anthony, you're right. Like, anatomically, I would put them in the gums. I know I just created the gum. In the artwork, though, it's, I don't know, I'm kind of getting the impression that it's on the lip. So you bring up a good point. Should we deviate from the artwork and put the teeth in the gums to make anatomical sense? I don't know. This might be one that I lean on, because what I have right now I think is matching the art pretty good. I don't know. Maybe let's take a vote. Is it bothering people enough that the anatomy is wrong with the teeth? And should I put them on the gums instead? Curious to hear what the vote is. Personally, I'm leaning towards leaving it the way it is for the sake of matching the art. I mean, it's a goblin. It doesn't have to have, you know, perfect human anatomy, but at the same time, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Looks like a fish almost. That's true. I'm torn. Oh. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one torn. It does look like a fish. I'm actually glad you said that, because I don't know, maybe that could be the inspiration for this, for Tim. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what he was looking at. I think the art is the one that works. It's almost that cutout style. Okay. All right. I think I'll leave it for now, but we can always readdress it. Show all. Cool. Alt-M to clear the mask. Let's put those eyeballs back in there. Yeah, that did help. That really took it toward like kind of a menacing goblin direction rather than just a cute gumless baby goblin, maybe. I don't know. Toothless, gummy baby goblin. All right, let's switch to the top now and add those teeth in. And we kind of get this, I think this shape right here is what made me think that there definitely was a gum element to the mouth, because you see this definitive line, but then the line kind of disappears for the most part, and it should probably match the bottom, so not being in the gum. But I think I still like the ridge of the gum. I don't know. I'm deviating from anatomy that we're familiar with, so just kind of going off of the lines I see in the art at this point. But I'll match that again, just for the sake of being consistent. So I'll pull this shape out, or this crease. Let's see, make sure I'm matching the art. Okay. And then we'll readjust that shape from the camera's angle. Yeah, good tip, Michal, about refreshing the viewport down here. All right, cool. Let's bring out the teeth. Let's see. All right. It's going to be a little tricky to figure out where the teeth are exactly. I guess I can just do them in relation to where they are on the bottom. So like this tooth is close to that bottom one. I kind of put that in the same spot. And then one, is there just one more? Oops. Two more. Okay. They're sort of interlocking, I suppose. So right there, and then finally right there. Cool. Control I to invert. Let's do snake hook. Subdivide collapse, perfect. Pull these guys out. Get the geometry first, and then shape it the way we want later. All right, let's see the positioning. Am I pretty close? Yeah, pretty close. These maybe need to be brought down a bit. Let's just box mask those out. Invert, and then bring that whole shape down. Cool. All right, so I need to kind of shrink the bottom diameter of these teeth, give them more of a point. Maybe I can do all of that with the snake hook brush alone. Also maybe pull them into the mouth rather than kind of sticking out all awkward. And while I'm at it, maybe give him that similar gummy shape by pushing in with the, oops, don't want to degenerate the geometry I've created. So we'll go to subdivide edges. There we go. Nice. Let's look at the art, compare it, see how close we are. Not bad. Maybe bring this down a bit. Oh yeah, and I haven't really even touched that tooth at the front. Let's see. Sorry, I'm checking the chat. I think the artwork is the one that works. Okay, we stopped there. Freestyling anatomy is okay. Leave on the lips. It makes him more freaky. Cool. Yeah, I like that idea with freestyle the anatomy. I might adopt that term if you're okay with that, Omar. Teeth in the art look almost completely black. I'd have thought that they would be pretty thin based on that shading. Let's see here. Yeah, so is that kind of saying that my teeth are still a little bit too big in general? Because I can buy into that argument, that critique. Maybe just kind of pinch them a little bit more. Not regenerate. Yeah, being so small and pointed, I get this like very needly sensation when I think about like if he bit you or something, which kind of makes him that much more creepy. All right, I think that's good for the teeth. Again, I'm not getting them perfect, and I need to remind myself this is like level 2 of sculpting. Typically, I do 3 stages where I'm going to sculpt everything to a level similar to this, and then come back and do a final pass where I get all the lumps out. I keep it very sharp and crisp on the creases, and just do one more once over. His teeth reminds me of my first sculpt, Melvin. Let's see. I think they're a bit too thick. Yeah, from John. I agree. That's cool. I'll pinch him up, or I think you'll catch up to the stream where I did pinch him up. Cool. All right, let's see what other features. Are there any key wrinkles or distinguishing features in the face that I need to go ahead and add? Looks like we've still got some around the eye towards the bottom. Kind of build this sort of eyelid shape. I'm going to do that with a combination of crease and inflate. Inflate to build up the shape, and then increase to, inflate to, which I want to do a subdivide collapse to accentuate the crevices. And let's look at the art again. That shape sort of continues all the way around the eye. So let's do that. It's really, really lumpy right now. Let's try and smooth this out. This is a kind of a random thought, but is anyone in the chat the age of where you dress up for Halloween? Like kind of, I don't know, high school and below? And if not, is anyone in the chat an adult that still dresses up for Halloween? And if so, what are you dressing up as this year? See, working on the creases, I'm going to go to subdivide edges to get those a little tighter. Not sure what made me think of dressing up. My wife is having a blast getting back into dressing up because we have a 2-year-old, and she's been trying to get me to dress up and kind of like to supplement his costume, which is going to be a Green Bay Packers football player. His grandpa's a Packers fan, and therefore by genes, I guess that makes me one too. But my wife wants me to be the coach. So anyway. All right, where are we getting at? I think that shape looks pretty good around this nose. Though I think it's a little bit too much like a carrot right now. I want to give it a little more curvature towards the bridge. Haven't dressed up for more than 10 years. Let's see. Oh, okay. Is it really only in a... This might sound really ignorant, but I don't think I knew that Halloween was strictly American. That could be really embarrassing that I didn't know that, but whoops. Omar, you asked, where's the occasional co-host Jonathan Lampell? So this is still part of the experiment. Initially, I really thought, my gut feeling was that having a co-host would keep the conversation going and keep it more interesting, which I think is still true, but I thought that it kind of added to the pressure of always talking. And I don't know, like when I'm trying to focus so hard on teaching and explaining every little thing that I'm doing, I think it really hinders from the ability to like make actual progress with the project. So I'm trying to like figure out that balance, and part of that was let me try doing it by myself and see if that's part of, maybe part of the answer. Also, logistically, it can be difficult sometimes to always count on a co-host. So if I kind of prepare doing it by myself, then I won't freak out when Lampell, like for example, one time his internet just cut out and he had to have a technician come out, completely unforeseen. And if, that kind of told me, well, I got to do it on my own. So I don't know, it's better to be prepared for that if need be. And that's kind of that's why I'm doing this one alone, I guess. But sometimes he'll still show up he has shown up in the chat, I think in the past when I've done it by myself, but we didn't talk about that today. I don't know, that's a good question. Do you guys prefer a co-host? I mean, because we could happily oblige if you do prefer the co-host, but those are my reasons for not doing it this particular time. Let's see, I still think I'm making pretty slow progress at the moment. But we've got some of the key shapes defined a little bit better. Let's see, there's a lump on the back of his head in the art, or just a lumpiness to his head that I'm not really, it's not in my art. I mean, it's not in my sculpt. Just trying to cut in some, there we go. That's what I wanted. All right. There's a couple more details I want to add into the ear. There's this cutout right there. Also maybe some of the inner ear anatomy. Just rough that stuff in, and then we'll move on. We'll call it finished level 2 sculpting. John saying in Australia, it's more of an, they consider it more of an American holiday. Not celebrated as much here. I'm very susceptible to ignorance, so that would totally be on me. Let's see, I've never been the type of person that dresses for Halloween. Ah, man, I used to love it when I was growing up. I went through very key phases of my childhood being interested in things that usually translated into what I dressed up for as Halloween. But it, you know, like Superman, Batman, really obsessed with those for a few years. And then one of the weird ones was Titanic. I was obsessed with Titanic, which was actually before the movie came out. So I can't remember why I got into it in the first place, but I drew the Titanic probably hundreds of times. And I don't think I actually dressed up as the Titanic, but speaking of those weird interests, I mean, I was a Titanic fan for probably years, which is really strange I think about it, but it's kind of funny about doing this chat stuff, is letting your mind kind of wander, and what you end up talking about is pretty funny and weird. Let's see, just working on roughing out this inner ear anatomy, and then we'll, oh yeah, I got to do the cutout as well. Let's see how that's matching in the art. All right, I added this shape, but it needs to be a lot smaller, a lot skinnier. Let's do subdivide collapse. Sometimes with more, you know, broad shapes, subdivide collapse can give you geometric errors like that. Okay, I think that's gonna look better. Still needs to come out this way. Let's just do that in the art. Cool. There we go, that's looking pretty decent. All right, let's add in that little cutout. Oh, modeling the Titanic. Now that would be kind of fun. It's interesting that you said that. One of the project ideas I've had is doing like an excavator, like a big heavy machinery modeling project, and maybe streaming that. It would just be a lot of, you know, classical polygon modeling, which I don't do that often. So I was thinking about doing that, which would also be hard surface, but it could be the Titanic. I mean, that would be fun. That would really be nostalgic for me. Oh man, I know that ship like the back of my hand. I'll bet still to this day I could probably sculpt that thing. Not sculpt it, wow. I would never sculpt that thing. I could probably model that thing and get really close without ever looking at reference. I mean, it was that, I drew that thing so many times. Does anyone else have, like, you know, memories where you're obsessed with that? I know in like computer graphics nowadays, you can find artists who sculpt like the Hulk, you know, 5 times and post it on ArtStation, or Wolverine was all over the place for a while. Certain anime characters keep showing up. So, does anyone else have like those characters that they keep going back to, or certain models that they can't seem to model enough of? I certainly have had that in my past. Once I got to 3D, I never really repeated the project, but I don't know, I think that kind of, those tidbits about people are kind of fun. Oh, so Mikal, if each of you do a live stream, does that mean we get more of them? Yeah, that's another benefit. If we do them alone, then we can do more of these, which would be pretty cool. I know I was really nervous about doing live streams to start off, but another reason why I wanted a co-host to kind of ease that. But now I'm getting pretty comfortable with them to the point where I would like to keep doing them, and more than once a week even. We're stretched pretty thin here though, as far as the time that we have, you know, to like create new courses, do live streams, answer people's questions, support tickets, We got a lot of stuff going on, but I would love to get to the point where we're able to do multiple streams in a week, like me myself. I'd love to do a lot of streams, in other words. Let's see, John says, I'm not at that stage yet. I'm trying to model whatever I see in the real world in the room I'm in. Okay, so does that kind of mean you're at the earlier stages of 3D where just building anything and everything is really fun? Because I was certainly there too. Yeah, those are fun times. I liked making the Star Fox R-Wing a lot. Let's see. Is that a video? I'm not sure I was aware of that. Best costume ever was Charlie Chaplin. It was my grandma's idea. That's awesome. Gosh, that's great. I have a film buff friend who would get a huge kick out of that. He loves Charlie Chaplin. All right, I'm gonna call that finished level 2 of the head. I got a lot of the features that I wanted in, though I do see a little wrinkle here. That would bother me if I didn't put it in. There we go. Just kind of emphasize the like crunch of the brow. Yeah. I think that counts as level 2. Perfect. All right, now let's move on to the torso. There's a lot of work to be done here anatomically. If I hide the, let's see, I haven't even been naming my stuff. The candy corn object. Hide that guy because he's covering up a lot of the anatomy, which is something to think about and consider. You know, maybe I don't need to focus so much time right here where the candy corn is going to be covering from every angle. That's something to think about just for efficiency's sake. But besides that, you know, I do want to sculpt, make it anatomically correct. Or viable, maybe. Right now, it's nowhere close. So let's start with building up these shoulders. Oh, and also I have another piece of reference that's going to guide me during this process. I'm going to split up my properties editor even more. Switch over to the UV image editor, and then I got to go find that image. Where is it? Skinny torso ref, that's the one. So if we maximize this, found some Creative Commons images on Flickr that are of 2 people, and he's perfect because he's skinny. He's also very toned, a lot of muscle definition, but not a lot of volume. And this is the kind of stuff that we see in the artwork as well. We just get a glimpse of it. Tim outlined in the arms. We can see the muscle definition in the chest and the upper chest and the clavicle. So I'm taking that to mean that he's pretty skinny underneath that candy corn, and that's where this reference is going to come in to guide us, because we don't have a lot to see from the artwork, but in 3D we do have a lot to address because we're going to be able to see this guy from all angles. And just looking at that head from the other side, I'm so glad that we did the symmetry trick, because that would have sucked to do that twice. Alright, but that reminds me, I need to turn off symmetry. Looks like one shoulder is a lot thinner than the other on the Goblin. Yes, absolutely. A lot of effort's going to go into making these shoulders better, and we're going to be doing that really soon. I reckon I'm adept enough in poly modeling, but I'm really trying to improve sculpting now, which makes these streams better. That's awesome. I'm glad that the timing has worked out for you and where you are. That is excellent. I know sculpting to me seems to make the most sense with live streams. Like, I don't know, polygon modeling I worry will be insanely dull, and other things like, can you imagine seeing a like dynamic simulation tested and ran over and over again? That would make for an awful live stream in my head. All right, so let's start building up these shoulders, really making them make more sense. But some low-hanging fruit actually is how lopsided the torso is. So let's also address that, smooth it out, and then maybe give him more. Let's see. What I'm going to do is undo that, tab into edit mode. I'm going to select basically the waist portion, deselect anything else on the hands or anything like that. Whoops. Okay, and now using proportional editing, I'm going to move this back. I find this is much easier to do with the mouse, so let's switch to a smooth fall off. And the whole point in bringing this backward is to give him more of a running pose. Currently it looks awkward that his torso is just straight up and down. It's not very actionable. Oh shoot, I didn't lose that redo. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think that's looking better. Looks more like he's running. And then back to sculpt mode. Let's just first smooth out these shapes to make for a nice canvas that we can begin sculpting. Like, I don't want any of this lopsidedness. I don't want to start sculpting anatomy on the lopsidedness because that'll be a little harder to fix later. So in general, just very roughly smoothing out the general shape of the torso. There we go. That's already looking a lot better. And buffing up the arm in this area along with the shoulder will help. It might be a little bit tricky making sense if we show where our candy corn is at. Right now it's intersecting the arm really bad, but I can't really afford to move the arm out much more. That's just going to break the anatomy. I mean, I guess I can bring it out a little bit. Let's see what I can do. But yeah, not much. That's starting to look a little weird, actually. I'm going to undo that. So I might address this in the candy corn, maybe shave down that one's edge to make sense, but another thing where it's easy to do in 2D and a little bit harder to do in 3D, but we'll get there. Right now I just want to make sure the arms have good anatomy and the torso has good anatomy. All right. If I recall correctly, in my rehearsal I started with the pectoral muscles. The candy is a bit thick. It is. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix that. Let's see. I'm trying to understand Omar, but when you cult and then retopo, maybe there is a base and the floating feeling goes away. Not quite understanding that. Polymodeling feels uncomfortable at times because it feels there's no reference as the mesh is floating in the air. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, especially for organic stuff, like when I started, the only way to get a kind of sculpture like this was to do it with polymodeling, pushing, pulling verts. Ugh, it was a nightmare. So in that way, it absolutely felt uncontrolled, floating around in space. Like, it was really hard to get complex organic shapes like this. So very, very happy that sculpting came along. That was such a revolution for me and my workflow, and for a lot of people. All right, let's go to my clay strips brush. I'm going to enable the radius so that the radius of the brush will change depending on how much I'm pushing down. That'll just feel a little bit better and more kind of artistic. What I'm going to do is start to bulk out a clavicle. As we can see, there's a better image, I think. Yeah, this one. This one's almost perfect reference. So that's kind of what I'm drawing off of. Just trying to bulk out some of these shapes. Clavicle, whoops, needs to be really strong. Let's push out a little bit of a pectoral. You may have noticed that I turned off symmetry. It's you know, maybe I could align an object orientation to do some of the torso symmetrically, but too much of it I think is asymmetrical already, so you know, we'll just have to sculpt it asymmetrically. That's gonna just come with the territory. All right, starting to rough out some pectoral shape. And And one of the key aspects of the pectorals is how it connects into the shoulder muscle. That's something that people get wrong. They want to like just, you know, cut this deep cut all the way around, and with a really significant separation between the two, and it just looks bad. It just isn't correct. Where it's actually much smoother of a transition, and it cuts in down here. Let's find another bit of reference maybe to illustrate this. That one does pretty good. Let's see. Looking at that guy, I'm going to cut in this muscle definition. Go back to clay strips and beef that area out. Just cut some of these key anatomical features. Let's go around to the back. Get the shoulder blades. On both sides. And then the spine is basically this crease that goes all the way down the back. Yeah, starting to rough it out. It's looking pretty decent. Let's see. Might be a smart time to also define where the pants are going to start. Because they have to start somewhere. And maybe we can think in a design sense. Take a hint from the rope that we see on this jar, on this I don't know, what is it? A pouch, like a leather pouch or some sort of pot or something. It's held onto his shoulders by rope. So maybe we can make a belt for his pants out of rope as well. And maybe that's kind of the design that we can run with here. Maybe put, so maybe, let me stick with me here for a bit. I'm going to cut an edge that's going to represent where the cloth stops, where the fabric of the pants stops. And the torso begins. Then we're going to come back around. We're going to make another one that's going to define where the rope is actually seated inside or within that edge. So I'm cutting two edges this way, two creases this way. Sorry, it'll take a little while before it makes perfect sense. I really need to increase the geometry down here. It's really low poly. Oh, sorry, you're asking about the music. The chat is maybe a little more active than usual, so I'm having a hard time keeping up. Okay, yeah, where do you get the music from? Is there a playlist of CC music? Yes, and I meant to do this on the first one. I have a playlist right here of Creative Commons music that makes up this playlist. And I'm gonna make a document to attribute those and also link them so you guys can have the music if you want it. But yeah, it's just all from CC Mixter. Just collect that collection I have over time. But all right, so we're going to go to subdivide edges because I really want to tighten up this transition between pant and torso. My shape sort of got lost along the way. I want to smooth this out and then build up a nice edge for the pants. There we go. So in this groove is going to be a rope in the end. That's kind of the shape I've been trying to explain for the past, I feel like 5 minutes at least. Hey David, glad you got a doctor's note. I'm gonna expect to see that later. Because you should have been here, dude. Plain and simple. You heard one of those songs in a PC game. Huh. Hope they credited that artist. Like I'm going to. Haven't yet. Yeah, some of these songs, this one reminds me of like some of the tunes from Halo 2. I think this is the one that reminds me of that. I don't think it's the actual song. Okay, let's get back to anatomy of the torso now that I've took forever to just outline where the pants are going to be. All right, let's look back at this guy, create some of this anatomy. One thing that's a problem right now is it's this problem when it comes to anatomy. I see it a lot with newer sculptors, new to intermediate, where it just looks like, how do you almost like you're just carving the outline of all the muscles, but they're not actually the right depths or shapes of the overall structure. And so it kind of looks like it's a more primitive shape with just etchings of muscle definition. And that's kind of where I'm floating at right now with the torso. And I want to fix that because that always feels off. So I think adding in some abdomen details, that will help. But I give that feedback a lot whenever I'm grading the realistic character exercises. And I don't know if it always comes across correctly in text form, but yeah, just that feeling that the muscles are etched rather than an actual muscular structure under the surface. That's a real anatomy killer when it comes to creating believable characters. All right, so I need to create or reference, start to hint at a rib cage. That's kind of cutting down this way. In general, it's this shape kind of like this. That's what I'm going for. Also the love handles. Is there more reference that I can use? Whoa. Yeah, here we go. This is perfect. So you can see that muscle I cut in earlier. Then I also need to cut in kind of the outer edge of the abs. And right now I'm cutting in the anatomy pretty firmly, but I'm going to go back and smooth it out and just cherry pick areas that I want to be more defined. Because I don't want him to look like a bodybuilder goblin. That's not what we're after. Omar's talking about the music and how it makes him think about old school Nintendo games. I'm very glad you got that feeling because I know what you mean, and that's the kind of feeling I would want you to have if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, those are some pretty nostalgic games for me. And they had some great music. Very identifiable. Also the Metal Gear games. I love the music in the Metal Gear. That very ambient kind of techie, like ambient techno. That was awesome. I definitely look for that kind of style when I'm looking for music to go with our training courses and whatnot. All right, so we've got some definition in there. I think the abdomen is a little, he's been doing too many sit-ups for my liking. It needs to be a little skinnier. I want definition because a lot of skinny people do have that definition, but I don't want bulk. And another key thing about sculpting musculature is the varying depths of the muscles. For example, if I undo that right there, I made a lot of strokes in that last 10 seconds. So right now, the depth of the pectoral crease is kind of consistent all the way across. And that sucks for musculature. But if I push in further at this point, and then push in further here, but leave the rest of the muscle that same depth, all of a sudden it feels much more organic. And so adding variety to the depth of your creases when it comes to sculpting muscles, that is a huge attribute of, you know, muscle definition. So that is a big tip I would want you to take away from this for sure. Looks like still a lot of... are you texturing the Goblin? That's not in the plan for this stream. I just want to finish the sculpture itself and make it a really high quality sculpture. That's my goal currently. Will I retopologize it and texture it one day? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't... Maybe. The only thing that could go against that idea is once I call this sculpture done, I might not want to revisit it again. Just kind of typically how I work. But no, I guess to shortly answer your question, that's not in the plan. Let's see, I need some rib cage action here as well on this other side. It's way too flat though. And we're starting to venture back into bodybuilder Goblin. Let's see, I'm maybe 55% satisfied with the muscles right now. So I think that tells me I need to take a break from the chest and move around to, let's go to the collarbone. That's usually a simpler, more defined shape to get. As long as I've been sculpting characters, every time I do muscles, it feels like it's the first time I've done it. Like, I'm familiar with it, but I'm learning so much as I go. Like, all these little muscles down here are just strange to me. It's not very easy to pick apart and just mimic. Let's see. All right. Oh gosh, I just threw my pen. Hold on. Yikes. One thing about live streams that surprises me is the room just gets so much hotter all of a sudden. Like, if I didn't do this stream, I don't think I would have taken my jacket off or anything. I don't know what it is about doing a stream that just heats this room up. All right, that's a weird little detail. Let's, going back to the collarbone, I really want to make this look nice. Define more these like ligaments and neck muscle structures. That little skinny guy in there, that's going to be an important one. And currently, the head is kind of like, I don't know, very hourglass shape, which it needs to be more of a column, less of an hourglass. So I'm going to try make that happen. Okay, I think the best way to do that is going to be to cut in on the bottom. There we go. All right. With my inflate brush, on the in between the collarbone and the neck, it starts to push in pretty significantly up until we get to, I think this is called the deltoid. I'm pretty sure that's what this one is. I think every time I do sculpture, anatomy sculpture techniques, I have to vent about, it's part confession and it's part venting that I don't memorize anatomy. I know just a handful of key structures and bones, I guess, but I just have never wanted to invest the amount of time to like really know the anatomy structure. It's certainly not, I mean, it's a good thing to do. I mean, who in the heck has time for that, you know? Like, Ryan Kingsleyan is amazing at it, and that's great. I just think he kind of ruined it for some of the other sculptors who kind of, you know, we're expected to know our anatomy like the back of our hand. And not just like know the structures, know the names of the anatomy bits. That to me is like, okay. I don't know. It bothers me, but it's also a confession because I would sound like I know a lot more than maybe I do if I knew those bone names and such. But all that to say, I think that's the deltoid, and the shape kind of spans this gap between the shoulder and the back of the spine at the base of the neck. So that was a big rabbit trail just because I was sculpting that particular piece. But I need to do the same thing on the other side. Just build up this structure. It's pretty flat, pretty straight. But man, does it look weird if you don't have that sculpted. Okay, maybe the neck has kind of bulked up a little too much. Let's just get it a little skinnier. Spend a little bit of time back here on the shoulder blades. Let's see. No, for the record, this song right here, this is the one that reminds me of Halo 2. The level where you drop down on those like Maya ruins. It's one, maybe the second level? Can't remember. But this totally reminds me of that game. I think the shoulder blades are a little bit too far down. Let's bring those up. Bulk up the shapes a bit. Really referencing this guy here. Arnold. Oh, I must have missed something. Maybe he's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the Goblin world. Call him Arnold. Arnold the Goblin. I think I like that. Any other suggestions for names? I think it'd be fun if we actually named him and treated him like an actual being. So just picking up here on the indentations and trying to match. That's all I'm really doing. You can really see clearly how the depth of this crease, this little dent, is much more than the contour. It softens up here and then it dents again hard. It's that kind of thing I was trying to explain on the muscle definition of the pectorals. So like this shape needs to be sculpted all the way down, this contour like this, but it needs to be, the depth of the muscle crease needs to be a lot more in these specific areas. That's not looking great. I maybe smoothed out a little too much in between. But also, like, it still doesn't need to be that defined. I'm really trying to work on getting the... That's just not looking good at all, frankly. Another reason why I would prefer not to try and explain everything that I'm doing is it can be distracting. And so I don't end up really... You don't get a good result. You get a lot of explanation, but a bad result. And I feel like a loser teacher when I do that. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. I would prefer you to do as I do. Especially during these live streams, but... Anyway. All right. Well, that other shoulder blade has started to kind of redeem the one on the right. So let's just keep going there. Let's see. Oh, I can't remember what this muscle is called. Crap, maybe this is the deltoid. Oh yeah, I think this is the trapezoid up here. Yikes. Did anyone correct me in the chat? I think that's the trapezoid. No, I'm screwing it up. What is this one called? I gotta look it up. do we got? What do we got? Here we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. So this is the deltoid. This is like what I think of the main shoulder. And then the trapezius is like right here. This guy. I was right the second time. Okay. Cool. Looks like scoliosis to me. Yikes. It's not really what I'm after. Well, let's see if that works out over time, John. Once I get this stuff shaped a little better. Oh, I see what you mean. Like, yeah. I'm kind of intending that, not for scoliosis, but to look like the spine is in action. Rather, I feel like it wouldn't be straight if the action is happening. But maybe I'll pull it back a little bit. All right, just trying to finish off this back anatomy so I can move on from it. Just doing my best trying to match what I see in the reference image. Not really drawing on any underlying anatomy knowledge, just trying to match what I see there. Gosh, this is just... something about this is not jiving with me. Maybe making his spine a little bit deeper can help. Give it some more curvature, maybe. To support the action. That's the whole idea there. Yeah, that's a good idea. The twist, trying to twist the trapezius. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because just judging from the spine, like I would need to pull that over. Let's see. That's a really good point. Let's build up the spine shape, because it would need to curve around, gosh, like over this way. If you can imagine the spine like following the action of the head. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you're right. We do need to twist this stuff more. That's a really good tip. Really good critique. Likewise, for the front of the neck, like the throat area, I need to build that up and make that twisty. Let's see if we go back to that. Yeah, this one's like perfect. We need to give him like an Adam's apple shape. Let's say that that's right here. Okay. Getting somewhere. See, if I would just shut up and stop talking, we actually make some progress. Online educator syndrome. Just always be talking. Okay, let's tie in the clavicle now to the actual shoulder. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. Notice that these contours like continue all the way up and around. So we need to do that with our guy. With our little, with Arnold. I haven't checked the chat, but is that what we're, Arnie? Cool. Yes, traps by the neck. Okay, cool. Somebody said something about being harsh. I don't know what that means. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with you guys, but I appreciate you talking. That's definitely what I want. This is where Jonathan Limpel would be great, and a co-host would be really swell to keep me up to date on questions and such. So we might, if the chat stays as active, I might just call him back in. Cool. All right. The deltoid, this is where anatomy can go a little haywire sometimes. At least for me. The connection from the shoulder to the pectoral, I already mentioned that it can be tough. And we're going to have to do it again here. Let's see. Let's go to subdivide collapse and regenerate that geometry. Oh, Gonzo's here. But he's probably just... Hopefully he's answering some of the questions that he can answer. But not able to notify me in case I miss a question. Alright, so I've kind of given this bulbous definition right now, or lack of definition, is just a bulbous shape to the shoulder. And notice just how smooth. There is a crease in between the deltoid and the pectoral, but it's very smooth. Let's see if I can... Here's another good one. Like here, there's almost no crease, but there's this very clear, like, continuation of this shape from the pectoral right into the deltoid like that. So that can be something that's hard to get right, but that's what I need to do here. So let's start by cutting more into the pectoral. That's definitely going to be step number one. And then just trying to push that right into the deltoid. Yeah, that's what I want. There we go, smooth that out. This will also start to create the shape of the bicep. Okay, but that connection, that's a pretty important one to me. It took me a while to realize exactly what's happening in the arm. But from this angle, it's a little bit of this T shape. Like that. That is pretty important. There we go. Okay. Let's start to build up the bicep. It's going to be the process of building it up first, too big, and then scaling it back. So by building it up larger than it needs to be, it gives us the definition of the muscles, and then we can, from there, pare it back. Which is what I'm doing, paring it back. This can be a tricky shape as well. I mean, let's face it, muscle definition in general is kind of tough. It takes a lot of practice. I've done it many, many times, and it always takes me a while, and I can never do it without reference. Muscles are hard. It's just the way it goes. Let's undo those couple steps, and how about I actually save my file? Thanks for being here, Gonzo. I appreciate you just keeping an eye on the chat. That's nice of you. That reference has a pretty sharp collarbone, John mentioned. It does. I find that the collarbone is pretty sharp on everybody, or well, on anybody skinny especially. It seems to be one of those places that, for some reason, just maintains a lot of definition. Maybe because there's not a lot of muscle around there. It's just like skin and bone. Another kind of way that I like to approach muscles is to start broad. You know, like if I'm going to cut a crease in here, like for this deltoid, don't come in here super small and tight and like cut that in. That's how you get the etching. But if you start big, let's see, and with a more subtle kind of crease, that will gradually take the surrounding shapes into that crease with it. And then once you take the gradual crease, tighten it up with a smaller radius, and then maybe pinch it with subdivide edges on. There we go. And now you've got a much more broad, and this is exaggerated, but a much more broad crease, which is good for muscles compared to something like this is how you get the etching. And that etching is bad, but very, very common. All right. smooth the stuff out. We want the definition, but not too bulky. And oh no, what are those muscles called on the back? Bicep, tricep. That's what we're going to look at now. Let's take the clay strips. I kind of think of this as like an upside down U. That's the shape that I start off with, like this, where this being the U shape. Once I have that, you know, kind of smooth it out, you can add a little more definition right here. But that muscle in particular is, I don't know, I find it one of the easier ones to form. Oops. Let's see. Sometimes I get stuck in grease pencil mode. Buys and tries, all a guy needs. Well, that makes me feel good, because those are some of the only muscles I actually remember when I'm doing sculpting. All right, now this is another, like on the front, this needs to be a pretty sharp transition. So if I sculpt that in with a crease and then inflate, that will accentuate the crease. Although, something not looking right about that. Oh gosh, look at that. This muscle needs to be kind of straight. Let's see if I've got other reference to help with that. Here we go. This guy's just a little bit too strong, too defined, I guess, too bulbous, too meaty. Yeah, just a little too much definition back there. But this is another case where I think I need to cut a subtle crease and then smooth it out. I really need to readdress the shoulder blade back there. Do not like how that's looking. Yikes, it's already got 7 minutes left and to be an hour and a half. I mean, I guess this is kind of where I wanted to stop. It would have been nice to get the arms done. I might get as far as I can and then do the rest of the arms like before we do the next stream. So in other words, you wouldn't see me sculpt that just for the sake of time. The triceps are a little too high on the arm right now. Add in a muscle, a elbow, just with a quick crease brush, pushing that out. Oops. All right. Okay. Maybe an unrelated question, but what are your favorite Blender add-ons for your workflow? So one of my favorites is the Sculpt Tools UI. That has been very usable for me for a long time. But as an educator, the more add-ons you use, the harder it can be to teach, because not everybody, especially when you pay for add-ons, not everybody has access to that add-on. So it can get a little tricky, and what that essentially practically results in is I try not to use a lot of add-ons. But Sculpt Tools UI is one of them that I keep pretty close. Let's see. Are there other add-ons that I like to use? I have a personal tool set that I built a long time ago with a couple like viewport lighting presets. I mean, it's actually a really big tool set, all for little, specific tools that I've found need for. It also was like the vehicle to teach myself Python programming. So that's another one that I use. But it's, I'm trying to think of what other add-ons I use. You've seen me use Texture Atlas, but I'm not sure I use any add-ons that I haven't taught in my courses. I don't think I have. Yeah, so I definitely limit myself on what add-ons I use. I bought the Bee Painter add-on by Andreas something. I think that is just a brilliant tool. I haven't used it that much for the same reasons I've already said. Like, I don't want to get dependent on an add-on that I can't really teach to other people. Let's see. Yeah, I'll probably start wrapping up this stream with the last couple questions. So if you have a question, please toss it in the chat, and I'll try and answer it before the stream is done. But I don't think there are really any other add-ons that I use. I bought Bee Painter. I bought HardOps, and I think HardOps is amazing. Just the work that, oh my gosh, I'm brain farting like crazy. The guy who does all the videos, who's like leading that team, he does incredible work with it. I've found the learning curve to be really, really steep, which is unfortunate. But there's just a lot of terminology that's specific to that tool set and hard to get used to for me. I bought Ice Tools as well, which is on the Blender market, and it's like in my opinion, a little bit more simplified hard surface tool set. So I have used that one before. I think that's about it. Oh, F2. Yeah, that is an add-on. I forget that F2 is an add-on. I turn that on immediately when I get into Blender since it's part of the trunk add-ons. Definitely enable that. A Node Wrangler, totally. That's the same boat. Like, because it comes with Blender, I forget to realize those are add-ons as well. Master Xeon, that's who it is. Yeah, learning curve is definitely steep. Doesn't mean it's not an amazing tool. Let's see, is there anything else? Expected this. To be fair, John said, to be fair, I'm not sure Tim von Rueden would have been expecting the statue of David for his cartoon Goblin. True, maybe not. He's interested that I'm doing the sculpture, so I'll have to send it to him, maybe send the video to him, see what he thinks. But yeah, true. I mean, Tim is amazing at drawing anatomy. Gosh, he's one of those that really does have an understanding of it. Whether he knows the technical names, as I'm looking this over, I realize that my pectorals are not symmetrical. One was bigger than the other. Oh wow, look at okay, this is a big problem. So the torso, the front of the chest is like straight, and then it gets to the clavicle and cuts back. That is really bad. Let me change the color so you can see what I mean. Right here. Nope, stroke. So that blue line, is that the best color? Yeah, that sucks. That is not how anatomy needs to be. So let's fix that. I think part of it is bringing the clavicle back. Let's see. I think the abdomen coming back is going to be the best thing for it. Maybe get a really big crease brush and kind of push the abdomen in. Man, that clavicle is bothering me. Maybe it needs to be pulled down. Yeah, definitely needed to be brought down. I mean, it kind of looks like this on the reference. I guess some people do have not abnormal, but unique anatomy. All right, it's looking pretty good. But yeah, we're at the hour-and-a-half mark, so I'm going to wrap this thing up. And I'll probably do just some refinement on the torso anatomy. Go ahead and sculpt the arms and stuff, and we'll go over that we'll take a look at that one in the next week's stream. But I want to make a little bit of progress in between now and then. So let's save this file. And cool. Combined with box cutter, hops is phenomenal. Hard ops, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you say Andrew Price's video on paid stuff applies to Blender add-ons. Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't want to get into that now, but I love that video from Andrew about how you cannot afford to be a cheap artist. He absolutely knows what he's talking about and is correct. Which I don't want to get on a soapbox too much, but a lot of the Blender community doesn't really understand that. I feel like, you know, Blender's free, so training should be free, tools should be free, make it all free. There's just some really bad logic, incorrect logic with some of those things, in my opinion. I don't know, we're talking about doing a blog post about that, so kind of write out our thoughts very clearly, because that can be offensive, I suppose, or very differing opinions on that. But all that to answer your question, yeah, paying for add-ons is totally worth it. I mean, it's going to create that ecosystem where we get higher quality tools from individual artists, not all from the Blender dev, which, by the way, those devs absolutely get paid. Anyway, all right, let's maybe wrap this up. I don't think I see any more questions. I lost my mouse pad. What did I do with that? Literally just, oh, here it is. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for being here. I'm really having fun with these live streams. I love that you guys were talking so much this time. I love that. So I might have Lampel with me next time so I can keep a better pulse on the chat. I really apologize if I didn't get all your questions answered, but please keep asking. Please keep asking as we go. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good about finishing this sculpt before or by Halloween. Yeah, and so we'll be able to celebrate the season from beginning to end. I won't leave a project like half done. Awesome. Thanks for watching again. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you later.